About 18 months ago, I set out to build a rally-focused sim rig so good that I could truly, legitimately train on it to become a real-life rally driver. Well, fast forward a few months and only like 2 days of in-car driving practice, I was able to hop into a pretty janky old budget rally car and win my class on my very first rally. And then, with only training in this sim rig in between, we went and won our second real-life rally as well. Yeah, 95% plus of all of my rally driver training has been sitting here and here. So there clearly has to be something to this. So let's dive into the gear, the games, the settings, the mindset that had me go from my basement to the top step of a real-life rally podium faster than anybody expected, including myself. Like, this has been crazy. What the heck? I just want to start things off by saying that it was with that PlayStation 4 and a very stock Logitech setup connected to a coffee table that I learned the basics of rally car handling. That was with Dirt Rally 2, and there is legitimate proof that this really works. I had the opportunity to go to Dirtfish Rally School early on, and I was able to get up to speed in a rally car very, 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 very quickly. I felt at home with the braking and the gas and using left foot brake, weighting the car, reading terrain. And so yeah, we're gonna go over a pretty fancy sim rig setup in a second here. Wow, just got way darker. But before we do that, we're gonna really quickly go over this setup right here, which, if I'm honest, can get you most of the way to where you need to go. Now, clearly this is a pretty upgraded setup, and I have done a full deep dive video on this on my other channel, which I will link over there. But here's a quick overview of this build. The base of it all is a Logitech G29 with the Logitech pedals that go with it and the Logitech shifter. But I put a wheel adapter on it. I took the original very small wheel off, and the cheapest wheel that I could find that was kind of like a rally wheel is this one here. It's a 350 millimeter wheel, which I don't recommend. I actually recommend a 330 millimeter wheel, and I'll tell you why in a second. We've got the Amazon special Handbrake. I managed to find one that works with PlayStation, which is pretty hard to do, but it only works some of the time. I can't really say I can recommend this, but when it is working, it is nice to have that handbrake. As pretty much everybody knows, the Logitech shifter generally needs a lot of help. And so there's this company called Custom Sim Shop. Yeah, Custom Sim Shop, who makes a number of pieces for this. There is an aftermarket shift knob on there. Whoa. Keeps getting super dark outside all of a sudden. Well, here we are in the dark. They have this little tiny insert down in there that makes the shifting a lot crisper and a little bit stiffer than the stock setup. With the kit that I got, it also gives you the option to run sequential, which is super, super sick. And it all made for a much better shifter experience. Onto the pedals, I have the Jattatech or Hattatech, I'm never quite sure how to say it, inversion kit. So we can get the pedals inverted, just like my real car. I use their pedal faceplates and their clutch mod kit. And for the all-important brake pedal, I have the AXC Sim brake mod on there. It really did make a huge difference. And I was able to control my braking much more accurately than the stock brake pedal setup from Logitech. This frame, this wheel stand, I don't even remember what it's called. It's literally just like the cheapest one I could find online that didn't have completely terrible reviews, and it's been adequate. So this is a great, fun budget setup. For me, I think the main ones would be getting a properly sized wheel onto it. So again, for me, that would be a 330 millimeter wheel. Inverting the pedals is nice, not totally necessary, but I definitely would put that AXC brake upgrade kit on the brake pedal. That has helped a ton. And especially if you don't want to be using the paddle shifters on the wheel, getting the sequential kit and just a shifter kit, whatever, for the shifter has been really, really nice. And so that was my phase 1 and phase 2 sim rig setups. Time to move over to the Big Dawg. And here we are. This sim rig is so freaking good. It's so sick. Every time I walk in here, I just can't believe this is in this room. And I just want to say right off the top, I paid for almost none of this. Nearly every single thing you see behind me was part of some kind of promotional deal for that company. Almost all of them, yeah, all of them got on board pretty much since right from the very beginning of the channel, which is amazing. But all of those partnerships are over now. They've all timed out. They were all done either in June or in August. And so I'm left in a pretty unique position to where I have all this sick gear, but there are no deliverables. There's nothing that I need to say or do whatsoever with any of this equipment at this point. And it also puts puts me into the space where I can go through all this stuff, think about it through the lens of like what I would actually spend my money on, what I would keep, and what I would definitely do differently if I were to be spending my own money on all of this. And let's start at the heart of the beast, the PC. Now, I have never owned a PC in my life before this one. And so when it came time to build a PC that would be able to run triple monitors at good frame rates and just be a solid system for gaming, I reached out to a company out of Canada called Quoted Tech. And they custom build PCs for gamers and for a bunch of other specific scenarios. They even did some sweet custom Lone Ranger graphics. Lone Ranger is my other YouTube channel, by the way. And that was really, really nice of them. Got some mountain stuff on there because I spend most of my time, pretty much all my time in the mountains. MSI also got into the mix with this, as you can see. And the graphics card is a GeForce RTX 4080 Super Expert, thank you. It's got the latest generation i7 processor in it, 4TB hard drive. It is water cooled, which still seems so weird to me. And it has 32 gigs of RAM. There are 3 32-inch MSI monitors. These are flat and not curved. And I've got that little bezel delete kit on there, which is pretty sick. I have these running at 1440 for height. Pretty dang happy with it. Yeah, all right, got my racing booties on and we're ready to go. Listen, I'm not complaining about the triple screens. Triple screens are friggin' sick. But at the same time, it is really difficult to film anything when you are literally surrounded by monitors. I get why guys like Jimmy Broadbent have like a filming setup and a training setup, because it's freaking impossible. Okay, so we're gonna go through all of the gear details and then we're gonna go through the game details and then I'll tell you my likes, dislikes, what I would keep, what I would change. So let's start with what's holding everything together right now, and that is the chassis of the whole rig. And that is by a company called Sawbelt. This is kind of what they're calling like their rally specific chassis. It's called the X99. And from what I've seen, they actually don't offer it in this color anymore, which is really cool, like sort of light gray. They offer it in some type of black, which also looks really good. But the whole system's really well designed. It's super beefy, clearly. And just like any chassis setup, it's a bit of rigmarole to get it going, but once it's locked in, it's locked in. Nothing has rattled loose, everything is solid. And the only thing that I would change out is that I installed a seat slider, but I pretty much never use that seat slider. I have it set up to be almost right near the front. And if like my kid wants to try or whatever, we just put like a cushion on the seat and then they can reach the pedals. So I would remove the seat slider, and I'm going to, because it like just introduces more movement in the seat than necessary, especially when you have motion attached, which we'll talk about in a second. Been very happy with the Sawbelt chassis. This is their SRX seat, which I really wanted that full containment seat because that's what I use in my real rally car. It's been comfortable, no complaints. Okay, having this on my rig blows my mind every single day, and that is the motion setup. This is from a company called SimRig, and this is their SR3 motion setup here. I've liked this system because it's really compact. It was very easy to install, and I kid you not, from literally the first day that I switched it on until now, and it's been many months, it has just worked every single time. Zero issues. They keep the software updated constantly. Yeah, I'm impressed. Now, here's my beef with the sim world and motion. Every single time, pretty much every single conversation I've ever seen online about motion is that somebody spends thousands and thousands of dollars on a motion setup, and then they go, well, you know, with motion, less is more. You just gotta turn it down almost all the way, and then it's just right. I think, especially from the rally world and how my main goal here is to emulate the real thing as closely as possible, I think that that's ridiculous. For me personally, I've gone against pretty much all of SimRig's recommendations. I have almost all of the motion sliders and intensity sliders all the way up to maximum on this thing. I want my motion rig to be as violent as I can possibly get it, because in a rally car, it's pretty dang violent. For me, again, and this is a really important note that we're probably gonna keep going back to, I am not here to try and set the fastest times on a leaderboard in a sim. I am only here to train. So neck snapping, spine crunching motion all day long, please. Yes, thank you. Okay, the Wheelbase. Wheelbase is from Simagic, and in fact, all the peripherals are from Simagic. The Wheelbase is an Alpha U, so it's a 23 Newton meter wheelbase. Big chonky boy, super heavy, by the way. I've got it mounted just where I want it to with the exact same measurements as my real car. We'll talk about that in a second. I do keep the strength kind of up there on the wheelbase. It's in around somewhere in between 40 and 50% in general. It's kind of all about that dynamic range. Like when you're choosing to go up to a larger Newton meter wheelbase like this one, like 23 Newton meters, whereas like, you know, say lower ones could be like 5 or 8 Newton meters or 10 Newton meters. You're doing that not because you want 23 Newton meters all the time, although I do have a setting on here for like a workout where I just do a really long, really twisty tarmac stage in like EA Sports, and I set it all the way and I burn out my arms. Anyways, You want it for the dynamic range of the whole thing. That's why you go for a heavier wheelbase like this. And that is something that I appreciate. But it does seem to me that I could definitely get everything that I need out of this, out of say like a 15 Newton meter wheelbase, or maybe even a 10 or a 12 Newton meter wheelbase. But that's for me wanting to get absolutely the full spectrum of everything and having it strong enough to still rip the wheel out of my hands when I crash. Be careful about that. But yeah, for me, if I'm spending my own money on a wheelbase, it's probably going to be one that'd be about half the price of this one. Simagic's Evo series does look pretty tempting for that kind of thing, but I haven't tried any of them yet. The wheel that I've been using is the Simagic, what is it, GT1 wheel. I would very, very, very much love to have like a 7-way hat on here. It's just something that I can go through menus with, because this one doesn't have anything like that. So I actually, oftentimes, I have the paddle shifters set up for left and right in menu, and I have the little toggle switch set up for up and down. It works, but not in every game, and it's kind of annoying. For me personally, I would love to set up like a button box that has like a 7-way hat, so you can do all those controls, and only have just the wheel connected to the wheelbase. Because like this right here is actually quite heavy, and so getting rid of all of this stuff would really help, especially if you're using like a lighter Newton meter wheelbase. It would really, really help with general feel and feedback, I think. But the biggest reason why I really like this wheel is that it has a very similar feel and form factor and the exact same size as my actual rally car. It's 330 millimeters, which has made a really big difference. Locking into that and getting a good feel of hand placement has been huge for having me feel comfortable in the real life car in crazy real life situations. Okay, pedals, this is a big one. These are the Simagic P1000 IRS pedals. They're the inverted pedals. I had to do some finagling to try and make it all work with the sawbelt inverted kit. But from what I've seen out there, I haven't seen anything really better for a rally cockpit. There are a whole bunch of different options for them, like the hydraulic add-on for the brake, which I am using. I probably wouldn't spend my own money on that. It's just sort of like a nice to have, but definitely not a need to have. The brake pedal feels just like the brake pedal in my rally car, which is extremely important for me. And by that, I mean it's very, very, very stiff. My real rally car does not have a brake booster, and I don't have any fancy linkages or properly sized master cylinders to actually make it a reasonable pedal throw. On my real car, it is just hard as a rock, that brake pedal. So is this one. There are a couple of bolts that work their way loose constantly on these pedals, and it drives me crazy, and I know I just gotta throw some Loctite on there, but that's about it. So no real big complaints about the P1000 pedals. This is a Simagic DS8X shifter. It's a gated shifter that can also be sequential. I've got it at the exact same height as my real car, which is sick, although it is changed now that I accidentally literally ripped the shifter apart in mid-stage in the last rally. If you haven't seen that yet, you should probably check that out.
Right 530. Okay. Watch that doesn't get under the brake pedal.
The feel of it is nice and crisp. The shifter ball that it comes with is really high quality. I think it's better quality than the one in my actual car, and I kind of want to switch them, but we'll see. I spend more time here than the actual car, so I don't know. But yeah, shifter feel is good in both H pattern and for sequential. There's a little switch on the side, you just hit that and it goes into sequential mode. And when you're in sequential mode, if you're being kind of rough on it, you can accidentally knock it over to the side and it'll get stuck in a H pattern gear and you have to pop it back in for a very brief, like tiny little microsecond here. It's not that big of a deal, but I'm trying to mention everything. That is also something I would spend my own personal money on. I would spend that little bit extra because it is quite good. For handbrake purposes, my actual car doesn't have a handbrake, so that's problematic and it's kind of expensive to plumb one in. So I haven't done that, but we have a handbrake here. You need a handbrake just to even like start stages. And this is the Simagic TBRS handbrake. It's got like a hydraulic circuit on it, and it certainly does the job. It is a lever that you can pull back on and then let go of. Funny enough, all of the handbrakes that I've ever tried in real cars all kind of feel like crap. They're sloppy, a fair amount of like play, and then you sort of hit a wall once the pads actually contact the rotor. And so real handbrakes kind of feel like junk for the most part, at least rally car handbrakes. And so this feels like way nicer than anything I've ever tried in real life before. And so for me personally, I would not be spending the extra money on the hydraulic version. I would get a regular standard version. It's just not important enough for me. Maybe if I was like into drifting or whatever, I'm using it all the time, that's one thing. But in rally, you use it to get off the line, and then kind of just in emergency situations, essentially. Also in the cockpit, I don't know if you can see this. Anytime I'm filming in here, again, I have no space, and so lots of times I will use the little Insta360 Ace Pro 2 camera just off in the corner there. And it's got the flip up screen so I can actually see what's going on, which is super nice. And it's worked really well. It's actually, it says cockpit on the top of it because it is the exact same camera that I actually use in the real car to film the same angle. And before we get into the games I use and the settings I use, on the hardware side of things, the number one drawback that I found from this whole setup, as good as it is, and it is unbelievably good, especially once I actually got all the exact same measurements of my real car, the number one downside and drawback so far, I know it's partially me, but it's utilizing the clutch, changing gears, heel toe shifting, that kind of thing. And it seems like all the manufacturers have a different way of trying to emulate like a bite point on a clutch pedal, but none of them ever have felt like a real clutch, because a clutch pedal, I've never really noticed much of a difference through the throw. It's pretty dead on any clutch pedal. So any feeling you get from the clutch engagement is a forward and back thing. It's a motion, it's a whole car motion thing. And so without having a motion setup on a rig, it's just extremely difficult to do things that would be anywhere similar to how I'd be doing it in my real car. It's different enough from a real car that I'm finding that I build poor habits with clutch use. Motion has helped a ton, because now all of a sudden, if I, money shift or something like that, or pop the clutch when the revs aren't right, I actually get chucked forward a little bit, or, yanked back a little bit. Like, that's actually really been very, very beneficial. However, it's still just not quite there. But considering everything else we are talking about here, it's wild to me that that's essentially like the one thing that I'm like, it could be better. Okay, let's get into the games. Okay, now the games and the settings that had me do this dang well straight out of the gate. We're gonna start with Dirt Rally 2, because that is the game that I really started with. And I think collectively I've still spent the most time in this one, even though I don't play it as much at the moment. This is just an overview of, the games that I actually play and get the most value out of, a quick setup on them, and pros and cons. So let's dive in here. As far as cars that most closely emulate how my car functions, it's split between two cars that are both very, very close in their own way, and I wish I could just kind of smush them together, and I probably could if I really dove into settings for them. I generally switch between these two, and that is the NR4/R4 Subaru. And the reason for that is this one, from what I can tell, essentially has the worst power to weight ratio in the game, and my real car as it's set up right now has no power. It's very little power.
Oh, I wish we had more acceleration. Yeah. It's not even moving. Then left 6.
And it's also a 5-speed. Now, technically this is a manual sequential on this car, whereas mine is gated, but I just use the H pattern on it anyway, so that doesn't really matter. So that one, as far as power and overall handling, extremely similar. And then the Subaru Impreza from 1995, especially in the next game that I'm gonna show you, it handles like exactly like my car, which is crazy to me, especially for when it starts to oversteer. Like how it loses the back end is so incredibly perfect to my car, it's crazy. This was a 6-speed, so you have to drive it a little bit differently, but let's go with this one here. Dirt Rally 2, in my opinion, looks the best. It has the best sounds everywhere, whether that's menu, in the car. It has the best co-driver, Phil Mills, absolutely legendary. His voice is baked into my head, probably will be forever. Sorry, Chris, my actual co-driver. And in this car, acceleration is doo-doo caca, just like my car. And handling is pretty dang close. And I will say, one of the best things that have come out of having like a higher end system is being able to choose, bring it around, is being able to choose your wheel degrees of rotation. It makes a massive difference in how close you can get it to a real car. Like for example, my actual car, up until very recently, had 1080 degrees steering, lock to lock, which sucked. And so that's how I set this, 1080, and that sucked. But I learned how to drive like that, and I also learned that like how far I could push things before I wouldn't be able to bring it back again, which really, I feel like saved me in my car. And now I've got a steering quickener in it, and it's brought it down to 720 degrees of rotation, and that's what I use now. But for just regular gameplay, if I were just playing this game to play it, I probably have it set to 540. But I never do that because I'm in this to make it the most like my real car as possible so that I can get in and feel at home in a very crazy situation. which is real life rally racing. That's what's most important. And I'm gonna show you the screen for my exact wheel settings. That includes pretty heavy force feedback and pretty heavy, what do they call it? Like basically friction. Because with my steering quickener on my real car, it's a pretty heavy steering wheel, which I don't mind actually. And so I have that set up the same way on this. Man, this is fun. I just love this stage. It's the best stage. If you want to have like a top tier fun rally experience, it is Sweet Lamb or like Gouffron Forest, whatever the reverse of Sweet Lamb is. Set it to sunset, wet conditions, in a Subaru. Crash your Subaru into the forest. And you will have, yeah, a great sim rally experience. Like the wheel, I have it set up to feel like just like the real thing. It's pretty uncanny, to be honest. I think that you can learn a whole heck of a lot more for rally car handling technique than some of the internet would let on. Okay, on to the next game. Okay, next game, and this game I have played by far the most over the last few months when I have been going into the real deal rally scenarios, and there's a few different reasons for that, but something has changed that might change the way that I think about which rally title I wind up using the most. So we'll talk more about that in a sec. Okay, EA Sports WRC. I do find EA WRC to have the most locations that are really similar to Western Canada where I race. And the ones most similar to that, it's a mix of Poland, Latvia, Finland, and Estonia. Let's go over to Latvia here. All right, and again, in this game, there are 3 cars that I find really close. 2 of them cross over and 1 of them doesn't. It is the NR4 Subaru in this game is really good. It is quite close to my car. And this is important to note. When I'm playing rally sim games, I am not trying to reach the top of the leaderboard. That's not why I'm here. And I'm not here to try and like hop into the very fastest car in the game, no matter what that is, and send it. I have probably used the actual WR, like top level cars, probably less than 5 times, ever, if that. I am pretty much always either Rally 3, because Rally 3 Ford Fiesta has some similarities to how it handles to my car. The NR4 Subaru, that one right there. And then my favorite era of rallying, it is Group A. This car here, this friggin' car handles exactly like my car. It definitely feels a lot faster than my car in game, and it's a 6-speed, which isn't super ideal, but dang, it's so close handling wise. I wish I had taller monitors so that I can see a gauge cluster while still have it like a good FOV for me, but whatever. Turning in on the brakes, moving the weight of that car around, it's just so good. Like I've always just felt that I could just feel the dirt building up on my tires as you slide through a corner. I've always had that feeling from this more than Dirt Rally 2, more than, way more than Richard Burns Rally, which we'll talk about later. If you notice in all of these games, I don't have the calls up above, which really, if you're gonna be driving a real life rally car with a real life co-driver, you gotta turn those the visual co-driver calls off as soon as you possibly can, I think. I just get on so well, yeah, with this car and the NR4 car in this game. And yeah, Latvia, Poland, Finland for the most part, and Estonia, great locations for me to practice and train. I also have to say, I feel like the force feedback is the most dialed in EA Sports with how I have it set up. I could really feel what the front wheels are doing, and it loads up just like my actual car. Very pumped on how the force feedback is. Yeah, so this is where I spent most of my time, but I think that's about to change, and it kind of already has started. Let's talk about Richard Burns Rally. Right, so before we go into RBR, I don't know, it may as well be a good time to bring this up too. About a week before I go into a real life rally, I use as much real actual racing gear in the sim as possible. So I use my real racing gloves, I use my real racing shoes, and y'all better believe that at least a couple times before I have put my actual rally helmet on with like little wired earbuds. and just sweated in that. Because again, the main reason for all of this is to just make a crazy situation like being in a real rally car and racing as familiar to me as possible. Here are my settings for RBR. As you can see, it is like a running theme with this. Mechanical friction is way up there just because I have a heavy steering wheel in the actual car. Force feedback is up, 54% on a 23 Newton meter wheel. Sometimes it catches me off guard, but it's usually when I'm flying through the woods upside down and hitting trees. And you know what? Your wheel would be doing crazy things and you better watch out in real life. This is Rally Sim Fan's version of Richard Burns' rally, by the way. Leading up to my next rally, it is about a 34-kilometer stage. It is very fast, it is very scary. There's lots of blind crests and some jumps involved. So guess which stage I'm spending a lot of time in right now? Onimpoya, that's right. In this game, I use a Ford Fiesta Rally 3. Again, lower power, all-wheel drive car. What you are about to hear is the main reason why I, lately, have been using RBR more than any other game.
3, 2, 1, go. Over crest, 9 right. 8 right, 80. Jump, 8 left. Over crest, tightens, 7 left, long. Over crest, 60.
As you can hear,
Jump, 60.
I'm using a 1-to-9 system. In my real car with my real co-driver, we have now switched to a 1-to-9 system instead of a 1-to-6 system. And, well, yeah, I can't do this and talk. I ain't no Jimmy Broadbent here, folks. And the reason why I switched to 1-to-9 is because before we were doing 1-to-6 with pluses and minuses. And what you start to realize, especially for somebody like me that is still getting used to the whole, like, you know, driving through a corner at super dangerous speeds and trying to manage that, while also listening to my co-driver Chris and trying to paint the picture of the road ahead, that is a lot for a noob.
30, right 5, tightens 4 over crest, pinch. That's right 4 up, 30. Left 3 plus over crest, tidy, 30. Left 5 plus up into crest, down, 30. That's right 3 up into left 2 plus line into right 5. It's left 2 into right 5, 50. Right 5 minus, down 75.
And so we needed to simplify our notes because both of us kept getting lost in the notes.
That's left 5 plus cut max 100. Then right 6 into slight left over crest down.
What is this?
Right 6 and a slight left over crest down 50.
That was like a 4 or something.
Okay. This might be, okay, let's double check where we're at. Is this a right 5 opens tightens?
So instead of having a whole bunch of syllables,
Okay, left 6 opens tightens over crest into right 6 minus down 30, braking into right 4. Line.
and a whole bunch of corners that could technically sound the same in my brain, we've simplified it all, we've taken away the pluses and minuses, and now it's just a straight 1-to-9 system. And through some great work of some hardworking people that I really, really appreciate, people made all sorts of note systems for this game, including a 1-to-9 system where 1 is the tightest and 9 is the fastest. Going into my next big rally, which is coming up pretty soon, I'm probably going to be spending a huge amount of time right here.
Jump, 70.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't. I can't film and do this. It's also nice that the Fiesta R3 is a 5-speed, which is great. If somebody's interested in getting into the sport, it's Dirt Rally 2. I'm going to recommend Dirt Rally 2 every single time. For me going forward, unless we start to see mods for like 1-to-9 on the other games, which I hope we do, I'm gonna be spending a ton of time in this game. And this game is great. Like, all of the customization available is awesome. I've only barely scratched the surface of it. The biggest difference between the other games and this one for me, this game teaches me patience. I have to brake so much sooner. There's so much less room for error. I don't think the handling characteristics in some ways is as good as the other ones. Like, something like that frustrates me. In my mind, with the speed, how things were looking in that moment, I should have been able to make that corner. I should have been able to brake hard enough to make that corner. However, and I mentioned this before, a big part of this is not feeling the speed in this game as much as some others. However, there is something that I really want to try with this game that I think could potentially change everything for me, and that's VR in this game. It just seems like it's built for it, you know? This game
Over crest.
is
70.
such low stress on a person's system,
9 left. 80.
on a person's computer system, that you can get away with running like pretty high frame rate VR,
Over crest.
3D VR.
Over crest.
I think that would be great.
Over crest. 80. Jump.
And in which case, I'm hoping and assuming that I would be able to feel the speed a lot more accurately, you know?
9 left.
And if I could do that in this game with 1 to 9 system and so much tunability,
100. 8 left. Cut. Over
I might
crest,
be
160.
pretty majorly changing my mind on RBR in general.
8 right.
Oh, dead. Oh, I'm dead. Dead, yeah. And to be perfectly honest, when it comes to where I would be spending my money, if I wasn't working with partners to make all of this happen, I likely would not have, I wouldn't have gone triple screens. Triple screens are super, super cool, but I just wouldn't have had the funds to do that. And so for me, I probably would have gone ultra wide or VR. And again, if I'm talking about budget here, it would be VR and this game, because I wouldn't need a very beefy PC to run all of that. But all I know is that this setup right here that I have been using has been
200.
unequivocally, no question asked, oh, I'm about to die, a setup that I've been able to faithfully replicate
Jump.
a real rally car and actually train to put me and my team on real podiums. Which is just like, this is what I set out to do at the very beginning of this channel. I wanted to answer that question of if it was possible at all.
60.
And now we have answered the question of, can you build a real rally sim? The answer is yes. And I die now. Oh, wow. Are any of these trees real? Let's just see what happens here. Still nothing. Are we going off the end of the earth? Oh, we're doing it.
5 left. Long. 8 right. Long. 80.
So what do you think about all this? Is this something that you would want to do? Are there better products that you could recommend to me that would be even closer? Or setups for games? I am so pumped about the future of rally. It really feels like there's this groundswell of interest in this sport and in the games. It's an exciting time to be into rally, and it's only gonna get better. So that was my setup. That's what I use. Yeah, let me know what you think about everything. Join the Ryan's Rally Club over on EA Sports, WRC, and let's keep taking all this to the real rally stages, seeing what we can do. All right, see you on the next one.